Hello, this is Steph from the Canadian Schoolhouse, and today I am here with a couple other faces, as you can see right above me. So I am here with Jonathan Schmidt and Oceana, and they were both from Trinity Western University. That is what the TWU is on their name, and they are here to share a little bit about, getting into university post-secondary options. They're going to share a little bit about themselves because they were actually both homeschooled, and they're going to share a little bit about what happens at TWU. So thank you both so much. We had a little pre-show chat, and I got so much great information. So hopefully I'm going to prompt you in just the right way to share that same great stuff you were sharing earlier.
Of
Um,
course.
and so why don't you first tell us where is Trinity Western University?
Great question. Yeah, for those of you who might not be familiar with us, we're right here on the west coast of Canada, just across the U.S. border, about 45 minutes east of Vancouver, in Langley, BC. So not too far away if you're up here or in Canada, but a good spot.
Mm-hmm. So why don't I start with you first, Oshina, and you share a little bit about your background in homeschooling. You kind of transitioned to high school at some point, and then, but you go ahead and just share a little bit about your background.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Oshina. So yeah, I was homeschooled from kind of the beginning of kindergarten all the way to the end of grade 5. So my mom decided to homeschool me and my little brother. And that was a decision she made based on wanting to just keep us safe and have more control over what we're learning. We are a Christian family, so we were using a Christian curriculum to be able to cater it to our values. And so then I went into grade 6 for public school, and I graduated from grade 12 in public school as well. So I was homeschooled for like half of my time, and then the other half was in public school.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So Jonathan, why don't you just go in and share your homeschooling life?
Of course. Yeah. So I actually have a little bit of an opposite story from Oceana, at least to start with. So I was in public school to start with, all the way kindergarten through the end of grade 3. And then my parents decided to swap me into homeschooling after that. And I finished out all the way through to the end of high school. I graduated as a homeschool student. And I also did a little bit of a couple other things in there for any of you on the call who might also have done some dual credit or running start if you're from the States. I did some university or college at the same time as I was finishing up my high school, and then transferred all that and applied to Trinity and got in. And here I am working for the university after I graduated.
Mm. Yeah, that's kind of a cool story. Eh? I think that's a really great story for the university, that it was just such an awesome experience that just thought, I'm going to stay here forever.
And yeah,
At least for a little while.
I didn't want to leave. I still don't. So I like it.
Yeah, well, that's an awesome word about the school right there. So a little bit. So Trinity Western University. So it's Christian with that name. We can probably all see that. So share a little bit. I was going to get you to share the admissions, but now it just came to my mind. Like, you should share actually what you offer at Trinity. Why would somebody want to go there?
Great question. Yeah, that's probably a good place to start. So for anyone here in Canada or even in the States, we're Canada's largest Christian university. With that said, we're still fairly small. We have a total of about 5,000 students, and that includes our graduate programs, degree completion, undergraduate options. We have a lot of students. We have students from all over the world. So we don't just cater to Canadian or US. We have students from probably over about 60 or 70 different countries. So it's a very international and cultural experience, which is really cool. Something that I really appreciated in my time here. And our focus is to develop graduates with thoroughly Christian minds. And so the goal is to help you learn the things you need to learn to have a great career, whatever that is. We got 48 programs, so everything from nursing to history to business. So we want you to do that well, but you can do that at any university. There's a lot of great universities that have really great programs. The other side of what we want to do for you is help round out your education and your life, both professionally and educationally, but also spiritually, so that when you graduate university and you head out there into the world, you're ready to face that world, and you're ready to jump in there and actually know what you believe and why, along with having a really solid foundation in what you want to do and what your calling is, what God's calling you to do.
Yeah, and it's like that really, it's a lot of the reasons why people, and it's been the reason for a long time why people homeschool, why parents choose homeschooling, is to be able to really, really get a good foundation, or just the time to really teach about God and their faith, and share that with their kids much more. And I think in the world we live in now, it seems even more and more godless. So to be able to go to a university that isn't just about teaching about business, for instance, or teaching about the 48. Wow, that's pretty awesome. You have that many. So you're almost going to cover anything that needs a university degree, I feel like.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's there. But in that setting where faith is really the foundation, and it should be all throughout our lives. So I love that opportunity to share about schools that do that nicely combine that, because that's kind of what we do as homeschoolers. For those of us that are Christian, which is really most of our audience that's watching here anyway, it is we really that's always got to go together in life. Even one of the things that I've just been impressed upon, a little personal note on my homeschool mom role, is that I've really felt that no matter what my two boys want to do, I'm going to put them in at least a year of Bible college, like just to get that foundation. And I don't know where they're going to go with that. And not necessarily because they're going to go into ministry, but just because they need that foundation. Now, of course, maybe if they want to take a specific program and it's very Christian based, then they can maybe go to a university, because that would be a great option. Like, do you actually do, like, maybe not the same as like a Bible college, but
Bible classes, stuff like that
are like theology or something like that?
Yeah, actually. And that's one of the interesting things as well, is I did a year of Bible study, went to Bodense for Cape and Ray before I went to Trinity. So I have that experience as well. And it was really cool coming to the university after that year, because the environment here, the culture, the people, and the whole university is oriented around that goal of, we want you to become a stronger Christian and become a graduate who can really live that calling and live what God's calling you to do. So I found it really, really cool to do a year in Bible school and then come to a place like Trinity that had Bible classes and discipleship groups and daily chapel and opportunities that I could engage on more than just a connection level or more than just an academic level, but really integrate all those really solidly. And then I had several friends who went the extra step because they're passionate about theology, they're passionate about biblical studies, and we have a whole biblical studies program. We're even partnered with Acts Seminary on our campus. So if any of you on the call ever want to become a pastor, you can do that as well. But yeah, if you want to do your degree from an academic perspective, like a business or nursing, that's great. But if you are feeling called to theology or apologetics or anything like that, you also have that option as well to get a full degree in that.
Cover that too. Great. Okay, so let's do a little bit about and I'll just let you decide between the two of you how you want to do how does admissions work. So we're going to talk first about how it works at TWU, and then also talk about maybe a couple stories of how people have gotten into university. Like you shared a little bit about how you've done that, Jonathan, in your experience, but from what I hear from other homeschoolers, I'm not at that stage yet. I haven't got any of my kids to that stage, but I've heard lots of stories, and there just seems to be a multitude of ways that homeschoolers get into university, and it's not like it's really any more difficult from my understanding. So that then if you went to public school and got that actual, piece of paper from a public institution that says you went through high school. So, yeah, I think you both have a couple stories to share, maybe on specific students in that journey, and then just starting with what happened specifically at TWU.
Perfect. Oceana, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. So how it works to apply for Trinity Western is you can apply at the beginning of your grade 12 year. So you don't need to do anything until basically the summer after your grade 11 year is when you can start thinking about getting ready to apply for university. That's how it works here in BC and in Canada. So it is a little bit different compared to American, how they make their decisions quite early. But yeah, so the students that I've worked with, in general, we are quite flexible with working with families of what they actually have access to for the education that the student did. So there are specific either like tests that you can do to show your education, but we're looking for some kind of document that shows your education history, in particular from grade 11 and grade 12. And you can either have like a provincial document that shows that you successfully graduated from a graduation program through homeschool. And then we do accept SAT and ACT and CLT scores. So any kind of, again, score or document that shows that you completed high school successfully, we accept that for admissions. In particular, we are looking for some kind of grade 12 English equivalent. Here in BC, we call it English Studies 12. Other provinces call it something different, but any kind of grade 12 level of English is important for what we're looking for to make sure that you can start strong academically in your writing and reading. And then we do look for 3 other grade 12 level academic courses. So whether that was through homeschool, whatever subjects that you studied, they don't have to be specific ones. English 12 is the only specific one we look for. Jonathan, do you have anything else?
Yeah, one thing that we do have on there, because I know there's probably families here who aren't going through a provincial homeschool program or a statewide homeschool program, and you more have just, I've taken these classes, or I've done these classes, or I've taught these classes to my son or daughter. And so we do have an educational background chart that we can provide you, that we'll just send it to, and you'll fill it out of what you've done and kind of what has turned into which courses and what grades, all that sort of stuff on your own. You'll send that back. That's where that flexibility that Oceana mentioned really comes in, because we can look at that just the same as we'd look at an official document. And if you don't have like that English 12 kind of official mark, that's okay. That's where taking something like the ACT or the CLT or the KL exam or the SAT, all the tests, we can have you take something like that just to give you kind of a baseline idea, or give us a baseline idea of where you would sit compared to a high school student. And I'm sure it's probably no surprise, but most homeschool students are on the higher average of the high school range, which is really cool to see.
Mm-hmm. Well, from what I hear just in the homeschool industry, it's universities and colleges actually are really looking for homeschool students because they're generally more independent learners, right? And it's not quite the same, maybe have a difficult transition to go from homeschooled high school to a university setting where you do have to be a lot more independent, right? You don't have teachers and the setting. I've never gone to university, so I don't have the personal experience, but from what I've heard, right, it is not it's not quite the same being overseen like you are in high school.
Yeah, it'd be a challenge.
Yeah, but a little bit more for those that are homeschooled, because my boys are 12 and 15 and they're pretty independent learners.
Very independent, I'm sure. Yeah.
They pretty much just do that. We do a few things together, but they really do all their learning on their own. I have a checklist though. So then I can look, because they like to get out of doing their work too. So
yes.
Unfortunately, they're not that independent that I can just say, good,
go do your stuff.
Doing that. Yeah, maybe before they leave. I don't know. Maybe before homeschooling.
That's awesome.
So that process of kind of going from, so you can do that dual credit. One thing that I've started, and I kind of wanted your feedback on, I've been noticing a lot of these online colleges, universities. Now, maybe they've always been around, and maybe I'm just noticing them now. But does that make it any easier if a student did an online program and got it and then went with that official? So I'm talking about mainly ones that don't have anything official. I'm in Saskatchewan now, but I used to be in Ontario, so that's especially what I'm most familiar with. And there is not really anything in Ontario that you can get besides going through courses or doing distance education, and there's all that kind of stuff too, but just in your normal homeschooling thing. So I'm just wondering, those that are watching that don't have anything official, is that a good way? Do they feel like that their kids need to do maybe an online college or university and get some of those courses that are more official to be able to get into university where you're attending there, and you're on campus in that whole university experience?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'm going to say it depends a little bit for each family. But from my experience, both having been a homeschooler and now working in university admissions and kind of getting a feel for that, having university courses is never a bad thing. And if there's an opportunity for a school near you or a program that you're aware of where you can get dual credit for just doing your normal work or registering for some sort of online program that works for that, go for it. That's great. Dual credit's never going to hurt you. It's probably going to be a benefit at some point. Oftentimes that can turn into transfer credit in university. And from an admission standpoint, like if you're doing, let's say, an online program through a university in your hometown, and you're a homeschool student, that might make it easier on your acceptance or your admission, just for us to look at and say, oh, you've done these courses, that's great, and we've worked with this university before, so we already know what those turn into, and we can use those as an easier evaluation. But at the same time, it's really not going to make a massive difference in the sense of we can work with wherever you're at. So we have that educational background chart if you just have a less official program that you've been a part of, and that works great. But if you do have something like that, then we're very happy to use it, and that might make it even just a little easier. But again, it's not too terribly hard either way you go.
So on your website, you do actually have a specific page for your admissions for homeschooling.
Yes, and I can share that in the chat here for your team to post if they like.
Share that specific one. I mean, you can find it on the site if you just go to twu.ca. But I like that, and more and more schools are doing that, or at least the ones that I'm familiar with that are connected with the old schoolhouse. They have a bit of a separate page for homeschooled students, just so the parents can look over that, be able to know what the differences are as far as that, a little bit. It's definitely going to be a different process than if you went to public school and you have that official transcript. Am I right? Maybe I'm not, but it's going to be a different process to get into a university or college?
It'll be a similar process, but a little different. And it probably also depends on where you go. Trinity is really nice because we're smaller, we're flexible, we work very closely with each family. If you went to a larger institution like U of T or UBC or somewhere like that has a lot larger student body, they probably have a little bit more policy about specific things. It may be a little bit more challenging, or you might have to go through a separate process. But from my experience, at least working with Trinity, we work individually with each family, and that's one thing you'll probably see on that link. Once they share that in chat there, if you go to the website, there's a paragraph there that says, reach out to your enrollment advisor, and that would be Oceana or me or someone else on our team, because we work really, really personally with each family. And that's actually my favorite part of my job. Is it's not just about the student. A big part of it is about the student, but going to university is a family decision. It takes a lot of work, especially for a homeschool student, to know where am I being called, what do I want to do, and it's not just a one person choice, it's the whole family. And so we work with the whole family. And so we're very happy to connect with you one-to-one, take you out for coffee if you're close, or do a Zoom call if you're far away, whatever works. And we'll do that with you too.
Yeah, it's really, when I hear people about other homeschooling parents and their kids are going to that stage, it is really so much of a family. I mean, they're going to visit different colleges, universities, like they're going to campuses, whatever they may be, and they're very, and I mean, I think all parents do that. It's not just exclusively for homeschool, but because we're so much more connected to that educational life already of our kids. Like I kind of hope my kids stay nice and close so they don't actually go away to
I understand that. Yeah.
But but that is all part of like transitioning into adulthood, right?
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
that
have to
hard
think
step.
about that for a couple more years at
That's good.
least with my one.
Got some years to get used to it.
Mm-hmm. But it is great, and it's actually great to know. I think that, and because I just mainly just know Christian homeschooling parents, they're definitely always looking for that place that is going to give them more Christian training, if I want to call it that, but really just more a continuation of their faith, because the world that we live in, and especially to go to a more secular university, the culture is going to be different.
Very.
And you talked just a little bit about the culture that happens at TWU, but I've heard that of other places, and it's not that. I mean, we live in the world that we live in, right? We're in this world, even if we're not of it,
Part of
and
it, yeah.
and we do need to have our kids transition to the world at large. But I think especially as they're maybe 17, 18 years old, that's so much nicer when they can get into a Christian university, and there's lots of great options. This wonderful one being on the west coast of Canada, which is a wonderful place. If you're not in BC right now and you're gonna send your kids anywhere, that sounds like the awesome place for them to go.
Mhm.
Right on the coast.
That's
Um,
nice.
so we covered admissions for TWU. So right, we want to talk about a couple experiences. Maybe you can share. So actually first, I just want to say in general to those of you that are watching that you may feel that, oh, I have to put my kids in school. Now there is different reasons to do that. And that's the great thing about homeschooling. We have the freedom to choose, right? What's going to work best for our family? What's going to work best for our kids? And it's different for everybody. But if you're making the decision to put your kids in high school because you think that it's gonna be way too hard for them to get into post-secondary, then hopefully this conversation and many, many others. Actually, can I get you to, I'm just looking here, Christine, have you put the link in for that article we have on our website from Trinity Western University, and just a little bit about the admissions process, and that one's probably 3 years old, if I remember correctly. But I did check with Jonathan just to make sure, like, does that seem like it's not outside of what it's happening there now? So that's
Still
still,
very true and very accurate. Yeah.
yeah. So there is where you can know just a little bit in the written form of Trinity Western University. And we also have, I'm going to get you to maybe just throw that next link in there on our Life After Homeschooling series page. So on that page, we have all kinds of, really, we have lots of different stories of how people have gone into post-secondary. So some going to university, some going to more like dramatic performing arts schools, some doing more going into college. Anyway, just so many different options. So first, I just wanted to say that there are so many ways, and don't think you need to put your kids in a public education system or a Christian one for that matter. Don't think that you can't homeschool your kids and that they're not going to be able to go to post-secondary, because it's far and wide the number of people that go. In fact, I think I may hear more homeschoolers that go on to post-secondary than maybe. I don't, that's my own stats I'm putting in my head there, but I feel like I know more people that the kids are going to post-secondary that are homeschooled in a percentage, because it's a lot lower percentage of that age group, right? Like there's a lot lower percentage of kids getting homeschooled than there are in the public school system. But I feel like there is more that are doing that. So it's very good, very possible. And so on that note, share a couple of experiences. And I think you've both got some stories just on how you've walked some students through the admissions process at TWU.
Yeah, so I have worked with a student who was from Alberta, and they had done homeschool for their whole education career until grade 12. And what they had done is they had registered with the province to kind of graduate through like the provincial graduation requirements. So they had a transcript that showed that, and it was provincial, that showed that they had graduated, but all of their education was homeschool based. And we totally accepted that, as long as the document has that English class and then the 3 other grade 12s. We'll accept any document that that does that. And there really wasn't any special steps. I just asked for that document showing their education history and that they graduated. And then they were moved through the admission process. They were offered admission and they were able to come to Trinity Western. So it really wasn't anything special or different that made it difficult. Yeah, and I was able to answer their questions about if this is acceptable, and it was. So there weren't any issues with that. So that's one story that I have. All of my experience is that there are no issues. It does depend program to program. I do find our nursing program has very specific high school requirements. So that's where we would have to work really closely with the student to make sure that they meet the requirements. But otherwise, all of our other programs are very easy to get into as long as you have that document.
So if they didn't meet those requirements, what would you suggest that they do? Like, is there courses? So let's say for nursing, are there courses that you have at TWU as sort of getting knowledge in whatever that area is? Or do you have somewhere else you can refer them to, saying, take this, whatever that's going to take you, the 6 months or a year or whatever it is that it would take them to get what they needed and still go into that nursing?
Yeah. So there are some options. So it does depend, again, what program the student wants and then what they're coming in with initially. So we do offer courses that are kind of like a high school equivalent, not across the board though. So there are some courses that we don't offer, kind of like an intro level. Students will need to either take it through a different university or take a high school online class or something like that. So in particular for nursing, we do have all of the courses that a student would need if they wanted to come to Trinity and kind of prepare to apply for nursing. They could do that with us. We have courses that are what they need. In particular, I do find that typically it is free or not that much money to just register for an online high school class. And so I have recommended that to students to either upgrade or just to get more academics so that their admission is smoother with us. We do have a program that allows students to start at Trinity if they don't meet the full requirements. So again, it'll be case to case, and that's where we work really closely with each student. So yeah, I think that's in general, it's case to case, and we do have some like high school equivalents, but then sometimes I do just, for the situation, it seems like it's a better fit if a student goes and upgrades a high school class, either through their school district or online in some way.
Yeah, I've actually got a great example of that. I'm working with a homeschool student this year who is looking at coming to Trinity. And I've been working with him since I think like October or September, like it's been most of the year. And so we have that educational background chart. So we sent that to the family once he had applied, just saying, hey, just write this out, fill it out. And they're coming through a thing called Wisdom Homeschooling. It's up in Alberta. And so it's more of a kind of homeschooling organization that kind of helps you get those things in order and makes it a little bit easier to get that process going. So it was a fairly straightforward, like they had all the names of the classes and grades and all that. That was pretty easy and straightforward. But the student had really struggled with their English 12 course over the year. And that's one of the main ones that we want to see for students, any students, homeschooling or not. And so he had a couple options just to get his grade up a little bit after he finished the course. He could either take the, as a homeschooler, he kind of had this unique option of either taking the ACT or SAT or KL exam to kind of demonstrate that English competence, or he could just upgrade that class. And he went through an online school here locally called Abbotsford Virtual School, which is just a little bit east of Trinity, and upgrade that class. We just got his final marks, and we'll probably have acceptance for him here in the next couple of weeks. But it was a pretty straightforward process. It just took him a little bit longer to get those grades than it might have if he'd finished the class earlier. But again, it was just a conversation with the family and working through what does he need and where is he at and how can we help.
And I think what I'm hearing here as the key, which is really, I think when kids are in like in a public school, is that you're really preparing at least a year before you're even really done high school. I mean, it gives you the opportunity, if you wanted to, you could do that dual credit, but you want to be actually contacting admissions for universities that your kids are interested in probably at least a year beforehand, so that final year you can get things, or maybe okay, it's going to be a year and a half before you get to that stage of actually being able to get into a program that you wanted.
Yeah, even just to make sure you're taking the right courses, you've got all the right academics in that year. And that's advice we even give to non-homeschooling students, is to make sure, because sometimes public school students will forget to take the right amount of courses and they only come in with one academic when we usually want to see three. So that's advice I give to anyone is at least look at a year ahead is a perfect time. But always feel free to reach out, and this works for any university, to the admissions team, whether it's us or someone else, where that's our job. That's what we love to do, is just make sure that you've got the right planning ahead so that okay, these are what they need, this is what I have, and we're set. So definitely planning ahead is always a good idea.
And prepares, and I think I've heard both of you mention that too, of kind of online options even for high school. So I mean, that's getting to be, again, maybe I'm just noticing it more, or it's actually a more popular option. And that I've heard of a few Canadians taking American online high school programs, right? So they're actually enrolled in a high school program. It's all virtual. It's all, and it's just, that's the choice they've made to make that. I think it's also the choice for some of them, as I'm just kind of thinking about some of those situations, to just be able to help with that high school, that you actually have a teacher there. And when it's way beyond what one of the parents feel like they're capable with, and I always tell people that it's not me that's really teaching, right? I'm finding the curriculum that works for my kids, and that's working all the way through high school. However, there might be a point where I'm like, you know what, I actually want somebody where I get that more personal check-in with my kids, and they're guiding them along, because sometimes that outside guiding, not your parents, might be a little bit more what's that, objective, maybe that's the word, going through an online high school. And there is a lot of this. So I've heard of people doing that even starting at grade 9, and so they're doing that 4 years, or that they just do it the last year or the last couple of years. So that's kind of a cool option that is available, right? Doesn't matter where you are. It's virtual, it's online, but it is an accredited, I guess that would be the term, right? It's an accredited school that you actually then get a transcript. Right?
Yeah, that'd be a good term to use.
You'll have some admissions that come through that process where they have a transcript from a virtual high school.
Yeah, like for example, the student I was talking about with that English 12 mark, that organization will provide kind of like a high school transcript or high school document that shows this is the class that the student took, this is the grade, and then we can use that for admissions and get both the unofficial document early and then the official one once they're graduated and done and finished at the end of the year.
And that's the one you were saying was Wisdom in Alberta?
Yeah, so that's the one he had grown up doing. And then the school, the one that he just needed to take that one off, I need to upgrade my English 12 mark, was Abbotsford Virtual. And there's a couple of them here in the lower mainland of BC that we recommend students do that are online and flexible and really good for both homeschoolers and public schoolers to upgrade some classes if they need to.
Awesome. Well, see, doesn't that sound so easy to do? Uh, just go ahead and I really find like any transition into that secondary education, and really it's like the transition into adulthood, right? Because that
Mhm.
post-secondary education is it's still a little bit, you're still in school, you're not always, some people do work and go to school,
Yeah.
but it's not, it's almost like that additional transition into, okay, now I'm really going to focus on a career. So um yeah, we all go through a nice little journey, and it sounds really awesome, your journey there at Trinity. um that you can help students with, actually, that you can help families with, because
Yes.
that's kind of where it's at as we're
Mhm.
sending our kids off, right? Into the wild world. We want that nice place for them to be able to just continue in really good education, and
Mhm.
that is one of the
Absolutely.
things I got to do, just like a little a little plug here for home education, that it is actually usually so much more superior, a higher quality education than any
Mhm.
child can get in a mass education system. I'm talking about, I mean, Trinity is a little bit of a mass, but I'm talking about more your elementary school and your high school, because it can be customized to
Very.
every student, right? And
Mhm.
then that's how kids really find out, well, what do I really want to do? Because we don't want our kids to go to university and think, well, this could be it.
Mhm.
University just happens to cost a couple of bucks.
Just a
So
little
we want
bit.
to make sure that that money is being used well,
Mhm.
and that our kids aren't wasting their time too as they're going into something, right? We want to make sure that they know what they're doing. And I find just being able to have that freedom of home education that can customize the
Mhm.
education in a whole ton of ways, um, that that's a really, I'm biased, of course, because I'm a homeschooling mom and
Makes
an
sense.
advocate, and I
Yep.
think everybody should be homeschooling, um, but that is just a really awesome way to get a nice customized and really
Mhm.
really good quality education. So
Yeah.
hopefully everybody watching here knows that homeschooling is, you're generally going to be able to set up a better education, and it's going to prepare your kids even better for post-secondary, whatever their choices are. So
Yeah.
um, we'll wrap up our call here, but uh, but I want you to actually wrap it up with something.
Sure.
I'm going to totally put you on the spot, but you just think
Ooh.
about what you might say to some students, that some families, I should say, that come to you about just advice on I don't know, on anything. I'm kind of thinking advice on what kind of program.
Okay.
How do I know what my kids to get into? But you just feel,
Mhm.
go with whatever you feel is good advice for homeschooling parents.
Go with your heart, huh? Love it.
Yeah.
Well, as someone who was not really sure, kind of graduating high school, what my next step would be, where to go for university, what even I wanted to do for university, I'd say one of the best things that anyone can do, and you don't have to do this even in your grade 12 year, you can do it in grade 10, 11, whenever, is start just by visiting a campus or two that you're interested in, or that you're thinking your son or daughter might be interested in. Even if they don't know what program they do, if they do, that's great, because then you can specialize your questions a little bit more. But even if you just want to kind of get your feet wet, visit some university campuses, because that is by far the best way to get a feeling of, is this campus the place that I could see my son or daughter growing, or is this the place that they could see themselves walking the halls? And that usually opens up opportunities to meet professors, to get a feel for the culture on campus, to do so many things. Even if university is 3 years away, it'll just give a good start to that conversation and make it feel a lot more real. Because even now, with students in grade 12, some of them are just now thinking, oh, I'm graduating. I need to go somewhere next fall or this fall, and that's like 3 months away. So starting early always just gives you that good head start on things. And visiting campuses is one of the most important things I recommend to every student, because that gives you a lot more information than just a website, or even just a little bit of online research will do. It's a good place to start.
For sure.
Yeah, and then on top of that, liberal arts education is really beneficial because most liberal arts universities, they have a core set of classes that are required for any program you end up doing. So if you're not sure what you want to do, liberal arts gives you flexibility in taking a collection of courses in multiple different subjects to kind of explore what you like. And they all still contribute to whatever degree you end up picking. So Trinity Western is a liberal arts university, and we've got classes in the sciences, in the arts, in drama, art, all of those different subjects, and they all contribute to whatever degree you end up choosing. Every degree has those requirements. So it is really helpful for students who don't know what they want to do. I work with students like that all the time. And by the end of their first or second year, they already know what they like, because once you take, classes in it, you can see what you're drawn to. So it's not a waste, and it does go towards your education, and then you get to learn about yourself. And I find it is really helpful for students who aren't sure. But yeah, liberal arts gives you a lot of flexibility.
Great idea, because sometimes it's there's a thing called of a gap year, and sometimes it's nice. Yeah. You're done school, you're done high school, and you take a year to do, I don't know, whatever, maybe travel, maybe work, because you don't know what you want to do. But I think that's a really good option too. Really, really good thing to consider, that you can be able to, still go to university when you already know that you like that setting, that you like that culture, right? Go there, and I think that would really help students be able to form what they know, form who they are. And I'm thinking like completely from a God point of view, right? When you're going to a Christian university, the Holy Spirit's going to guide you when you've got part of your education there is in faith. So we most of all want what God has got planned for our kids. So.
Absolutely.
Thank you for those tips. I just thought of one last one, because I've experienced a couple of conferences this past year. I went representing the old schoolhouse, but it was the first time I'd ever been to a homeschool conference. And that is actually a really great way. I walked there with my son. So my 15-year-old, he came with me, and we walked. There's always a good lineup, depending how big the conference is. There's always a column, right? A row that's post-secondary, right? Universities in the area. I know I saw TWU at Alberta. I forget if they were at Saskatchewan, but I know that they were there at Alberta, which is still close to BC. And yeah, just a great place to get lots of options. I mean, it's not quite the same as going to a campus, but it's a good start. So maybe when your kids are good reason to go to conferences with your kids, that you can take that walk down the post-secondary aisle together. So.
Absolutely. And there's often, even outside of the homeschooling ones, if you want to branch out, there's usually public ones that are they're open to the public, and they're sometimes a mixture of career and post-secondary events or fairs, and sometimes they're very focused on post-secondary. So a good portion of those will happen usually between September and December during the year, but there's ones happening all throughout. So keep an eye out for your local area, because that's also a great way to meet some local institutions.
Great. Well, thank you both for joining me here today.
Thanks for having us.
And I am so excited to share this video more. I kind of like to take a few little clips, and we have got lots of great little clips of you guys sharing awesome advice. So thanks so much for your time.
Yeah.
And you listening.
If anyone on chat or watching this wants to reach out, I think you guys posted our contact info there. So please email us. We'd love to talk to you more.
Yes, for sure. And if you just comment, whether you're watching Facebook, YouTube, even if you comment in there, we will make sure the comment gets sent over that way, if that's something that's specifically for Jonathan or Oceana. All right. Well, thank you all for watching, and we will be back here with another live broadcast in a couple of weeks. Take care. Bye.
Bye, everyone.